David Davis is here with us.
Dave Davis spoke very eloquently, as ever, in the emergency statement in the Commons about British Steel. I'm still puzzled, David. The great sense of urgency, Parliament's being recalled, and yet we now discover they haven't even managed to get 55,000 tonnes of coking coal off a ship that's marooned in Immingham Harbour, 2 miles from Scunthorpe.
Yeah, it's not very far away.
It's been there since Thursday.
Yeah, I don't. You know, there's a little bit of disjuncture between the reality and how can I put it, the performative aspects of this. You know? I mean, we were all a bit suspicious. I mean, we gave Jonathan Reynolds the benefit of the doubt, frankly.
The business secretary.
The business secretary. But you know, we all wondered why wasn't this done last Tuesday?
Right.
You know,
were they grandstanding?
Well, there's a suspicion of that. I mean, all of us who came back gave the government the benefit of the doubt. There was no division, no votes. We accepted everything because, frankly, something had to be done. But you know, we hadn't. Was it the Times yesterday going on about warships being summoned to guard the ship? I mean, it's all a bit OTT. The truth matter is there's a really big strategic problem here. You don't need to big it up. The government's got enough trouble as it is, you know, to sort it out. You know, in a world when, you know, before Trump came in, was a free trade world. You know, when you take risk is the wrong word, but it was less risky to rely on the international market. Now, if you rely on the international market for anything which is substantive to your national economy, like steel, more than anything else, then you're unwise, and you're also putting a place like Scunthorpe really at risk, because Scunthorpe is steel town. That's what it's been there for 150 years, you know.
2,700 jobs directly in the plant
and then
itself,
many more.
And then all of the surrounding
multiply that by 7, I think, for around
everything.
It'd be the death of the
Yeah, and it'll have knock-on in my constituency. I'm 14 miles, but that's crow flies. That's a bit longer going around the river. But you know, there'll be well, there are people who work there from my constituency, and there'll be businesses that depend on them from my constituency, and that's true of all of North Lincolnshire. And bits of West Yorkshire too. So really, really serious. You really don't need to dramatise it. But you know, of course, the higher the drama, the more you can see the government doing things.
What benefit do Labour get out of amping up the drama? Because it just looks like a failure on their part at the moment. There's not. What are they trying to achieve?
Well, I mean, firstly, to be seen to be doing something is a benefit in a government. I mean, just a political benefit. I'm not talking realities now, just political benefits. And the story they were trying to tell is the Tories' fault, and we're putting it right. That's the sort of story, which is sort of nonsense. Most of this is post-Trump, really. Although there are, you know, look, there are things that have been done wrong. Back to the 90s, you know. We were talking off air about the fact we had a golden share. What happened to that?
Just explain to people what that means.
Well, a golden share allows you basically to stop the owners doing certain things, selling it to other people, and so on. And I imagine, depending on how you draft a golden share, shutting it down. And I would be saying, in the modern world, you know, bear in mind I'm the ultimate free trader. In the modern world, we probably should have a golden share for any major industry that's privatised or frankly not even privatised, is in play in the international markets. I mean, one of the things Jonathan Reynolds said over the weekend was, well, you know, we have to think differently, perhaps in this way, about big industries like steel. We wouldn't do it for others, and he gave a list of them, which he included life sciences. Well, I'm sorry, in the modern world, life science is a strategic asset too. So
Which is vaccines and pharmaceuticals,
Vaccines,
isn't it?
pharmaceuticals, genetic... Oh, yeah, I mean, we are one of the most innovative countries in the world in terms of per size, probably the most innovative. You know, Cambridge and Imperial, places like that have fantastic stories behind them. And so we have to now think, well, how are we going to run the world in a world which is transactional, in which Trump... Yeah, he basically says to people, you know, American troops are only going to be here if you give me something. Yeah. You know, if you give me resources, give me minerals in Ukraine, and I think he said the same to Iraq. So you got that sort of world. China plainly playing this for world dominance. It sounds dramatic, but world dominance in big things like steel. We have to play our cards very cleverly, and we have to invent for ourselves weapons to use in that marketplace. And as I say, you are talking to the most free trade MP in the House of Commons.
So
Have you been getting a load of spam in your email recently? What about random calls? It's really annoying, isn't it? Data brokers are out there collecting your personal information. Anything from your email, your full name, your address, and even your political affiliation. Cyber criminals can even use AI to mimic the voices of friends and family to trick people into sending them money. And it gets even worse. People out there are getting huge loans taken out in their names without even knowing about it. But don't worry, because the sponsor of this video, Incogni, can help. They reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information is removed from their databases. Incogni continues to make sure that your data is removed automatically from the internet via repeated removal requests. So, how can you get started? Well, step 1, hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account and tell us whose data you'd like removed. Step 2, grant Incogni the right to work on your behalf. Step 3, sit back, relax, and watch Incogni work. They will update consistently so you know when your data has been removed. Incogni is risk-free for 30 days, so you can try it for yourself and you'll get a free refund if the service isn't for you. So take back your personal data today with Incogni. Use the code GBNews using the link in the description below and you'll get 60% off an annual payment plan.
But if we don't have this, just so that our audience really understand this issue, if we aren't able to make virgin steel here, how does that render us vulnerable, David?
Well, in a circumstance in which you've got conflicts, right? If we fall out with somebody or other, then all of a sudden, in order to get railway lines, in order to get railway carriages, matter, or new cars, you are dependent on somebody abroad. They may just shut it off. What if we get into a trade war with China over cars, let's say? And they suddenly say, well, we're not going to have any steel. You're dependent on recycled steel.
Which is not as good quality as...
all sorts of problems with it.
You didn't seem to me to be too pro, necessarily, nationalising British Steel as a last resort.
No, I had a little bit of a skirmish with Richard Tice over it, because Tice says, we need to nationalise. Nationalisation is not the answer. The word I use is it's a reprieve, not a rescue. It buys time. It doesn't buy a future. This company lost 400 million last year, I think the last numbers we've seen.
Xinjiang.
We think it's... No. British Steel lost 400 million,
Chinese
right?
company.
And then this year we think it's losing 250 million a year. Well, I'm afraid, at some point, if you've got a nationalised company losing 250 million a year, the Treasury's going to shut it down.
Yeah, they are.
So you've got that issue. What we have to do is the point of nationalisation, the point of control, is to keep it alive whilst we make the economics better. Now, the key economics in Britain, I'm afraid, and this is going to go right to the heart of the government's policy, is energy costs. We have the highest energy costs in the world, in our competitive world, by a margin, much higher than France, much higher than even Germany. And those are countries with big green agendas. And one of the problems we now have, and this crystallises it, is that our energy policy, our green energy policy, trying to go to green energy, trying to stop producing carbon dioxide, is presented as a success because we've reduced quite dramatically the amount of carbon dioxide. But the way that's happened is that the things that need carbon dioxide production to make them, the industry's been exported. It's gone to China. So, for example, if you stop making steel in Britain and it's produced in China, that's the highest CO2 per tonne of steel pretty much in the world.
So it's a paper exercise. It makes us look like we have reduced it, but we're still just buying it.
So we've given up our jobs, given up our competitiveness, persuaded ourselves we are saints, and in fact, we've made the problem worse, not better. And that's one of the reasons why Kemi says that she's not a global warming sceptic, but she is a net zero sceptic, because it's not actually delivering what it's supposed to do.
Right. We've got time for just one other question, Dave, if we can. The Select Committee report today saying there was no two-tier policing in the spot at Southport. I'm not sure many people watching this programme will agree with that.
No, and I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I mean, it's not just the policing that worries me about Southport. It was the whole management of the public debate. You know, basically, you were told if you put up an assertion that the government doesn't like, you know, then you can get a prison for it, or at least you can be threatened for it. And that, for me, is by far away the much worse thing. But yeah, of course, I mean, the trouble is our police forces now become so it's odd, isn't it? A PC police force.
Yeah.
PC meant, when I was at school, PC meant a different thing. But we have such PC police forces now. You see it all over the shop in terms of their recruitment policies, their approach on the streets, and so on. And you know, I don't think ethnic minorities want them to behave in that way.
We had one police force last week saying they're not recruiting anybody white because they want to make their police force more...
You know, when I talk to people from West Yorkshire, from... You know,
it was West Yorkshire.
I say non-white personnel, they don't want that.
Yeah.
They want you know, clear, plain justice, the same for everybody. You know, and that's the view of the Asians, the Muslim minorities, Indian minorities, you name it. They all want... many of them came to this country, or their parents or their grandparents came to this country, because that's what they wanted to see. That's what we were famous for. We're famous for having a straightforward judicial system. Now we haven't even got a judicial system to try it without a jury trial. That's going up the wall as well.
Yeah. David Davies, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We need to move on.